welcome to another PSP. We are down to the final two here, folks, and we will be starting off that top two with last year's runner-up, the St. Petersburg Tropapologists. This is, of course, FlamingPrius' team, who we saw enter last year's postseason as the 6th seed and make it all the way to the finals before, of course, losing to the team then known as the Mike Copeland in the Lollygaggers World Series. They'll be back for more this year, and this is, as you can expect, with a team ranked second overall. This is an impressive squad. So we'll dive right in to looking at the ins and outs from the offseason. This was one of the teams that I think, as many of us remember, probably got hit the hardest by the expansion draft. A lot of young talent. But I think overall, FlamingPrius did a really good job of reacquiring some of the pieces that were really important to the Tropapologists, and, you know, making sure that there wasn't too much that just went out the door. You know, without either returning for assets that could be allocated elsewhere or, you know, stuff that maybe wasn't needed. So we will start with the ins. We've got two guys who were lost to expansion and then reacquired. That's Nick Lodolo and Ryan Pepio, a couple of starting pitchers. And then Seiya Suzuki is another in that is a new in to help fill out some of that outfield that we know FlamingPrius was having trouble with. And then also Ryan Waldschmidt is our last name of ins. Three guys lost to expansion. We saw Riley Green, Spencer Steer, and Connolly Early all head out the door, along with Phil Maton, the relief pitcher. And then two more outs to kind of facilitate a couple of those trades I mentioned earlier. We did see Max Fried, who's of course acquired at the deadline last year, get traded over to the Arctic Real Survivors and Min. And then also just this past week, Gleyber Torres headed over to the Sault Ste. Marie Locks in exchange for Pepio. That was just a one-for-one deal there. So not a ton of motion. A lot of it was sort of, you know, working to restabilize his roster after, you know, stuff was a little bit knocked loose during that expansion draft. But as I think you'll all see in just a moment, FlamingPrius did a pretty damn good job of getting this roster into shape and into a competitive form. So we'll start off, as we always do, with the lineup. It's led off by the catcher Carter Jensen, ranked at number 95 on the top 1,000. I'll go into it more later. Can't tell you how high I am on Carter Jensen. I think this is a player who all of us kind of know the name now, and he is going to be very much a household name by the end of the year as one of the best catchers in the league, ranked at number 95, as I said. Following him is Vlad Guerrero Jr., ranked at number 25. You know how good he was in the postseason last year, and after a strong, if not spectacular, regular season, I think he's going to be looking to kind of parlay that October success into an even better regular season. Otto Lopez will be filling out second base with Junior Caminero, ranked at number 12, at third base, and Trey Turner ranked at number 48 at shortstop. The party does not stop there with the infield. We do have one last infielder, of course, in the flex infield spot. That's Zach Neto, who ranks at number 18 on the top 1,000. Really high ranking there for Neto. Something that is maybe propped up a little bit by his, you know, power speed combo that, of course, is so valuable in categories leagues, but no mistake about it, Zach Neto is a premium dynasty player. And yeah, only 25 years old in the season he put up last year. That is a very, very impressive infield that the Tropapologists have here. Starting with the outfield, we do have Dalen Lyle, who kind of came up and impressed last year in Washington. Jaron Duran in center field, he's ranked at number 65, with Brent Rooker ranked at number 57 in right field. Jeff McNeil is currently listed as the flex outfielder, with Dalton Rushing as the utility player. One more guy who I did, of course, mention earlier in the acquisitions, but I didn't mention on this list, that is Seiya Suzuki. He's currently on the IL, and I think they're saying about 3 to 4 weeks timeline before he's back, but he is also ranked on the list at number 100. So he is the Centennial there. Capping off that last player on the top 100 of the top 1,000. And as you can hear, this is a phenomenal lineup. It is spectacular. There's only one player in the infield Otto Lopez, who does not rank within the top 100. All in all, there are 8 players in the lineup that rank in that top 100. This is just such a phenomenal team. It's young, which I think you all heard sort of the excitement in my voice when I was reading over JMC's team and saying, oh my goodness, look how strong this team is. Oh, and by the way, they're almost all under 25 or under 27, I guess I should say. His team is, a little bit older than that. But you have a similar thing here. Jensen, 22. Guerrero, 27. Caminero, 22. Turner's a little bit older at 32, but Neto, 25. Duran, 29. Like this, rushing 25. This is a young team who is, in my opinion, in the heart of their competitive window right now. Obviously, we saw what Caminero did last year, 45 home runs. I think folks are generally expecting that to come down a little bit as he moves to a less hitter-friendly environment back at the Trop, but I don't think he's coming down that much. We all saw how he plays. That guy is a superstar of the top tier caliber. And then just incredible power speed guys in Turner and Neto. As I mentioned, I think Jensen is just going to be fantastic this year. Brent Rooker is like a cheat code in that park in Sacramento. Jarren Duran, who quietly, I think kind of reworked his swing this offseason. I read this whole article on a thing about how he is releasing to just one hand on his follow through, and it's really helped with his power. Another fun kind of note about Duran, he is going to be DHing for the Red Sox. He'll obviously play in the outfield sometime, but primarily he will be DHing. He's definitely the worst of the sort of 4 outfielders we have defensively, and I think that's going to take a lot of stress off of his legs, which may lead to even more base stealing, which of course we know he can do with that speed. And then Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I would say, is the straw that stirs the drink of this lineup. Acquired at the deadline last year. I'm going to quickly see if it does show the package along with it. Yeah, it was a straight 1-for-1. Vlad for PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong. So that was a really interesting trade there with Al Marnett. You all know how good Vlad is. You know how strong he is. He's such a valuable fantasy contributor, I think, as that sort of, hit tool plus power type guy. And I think we're all sort of, there's that thought lingering in the back of our head when it comes to Vlad Guerrero that, hey, if he starts lifting the ball again like he did, 2021 is, of course, the year when he did it the best, but if he starts lifting the ball again, we're looking at a guy who's hitting 45, maybe even 50 home runs with that over 300 batting average. And you know how good Vlad is. I don't need to get into it too much. Oh my gosh, this lineup is so good. So much power, so much speed, so many different ways for the guys to contribute. And a couple of nice, solid backup catching options between rushing Carson Kelly there to kind of back up Jensen. I really like both of those as options to kind of spell him if Jensen gets some time at DH or if he gets days off, this being his first full season. There is another name who you all, I'm sure, are thinking, hey, why hasn't Zang mentioned that guy yet? We'll get to him down at the prospect section, don't you worry. So that'll just be another name, spoiler alert, to add to the, guys in the top 100 of the top 1,000. So, we could even be looking at a full infield of guys who, are ranked within that top 100. And again, one person's opinion, but when you're looking at the scope of this team, clearly this is a lineup with tremendous upside, pedigree, and expectation. And you know what's funny? That's not even the best part of this team. You all know what makes FlamingPrius, what makes the Tropapologists, I should say, the team that they are, and it's that pitching staff. It's led off by the 2 aces, Paul Skeens and Tarek Skubal, ranked at number 16 and 17. Not too shabby there in your number 3 either with Hunter Brown. Nick Lodolo, reacquired, as I mentioned, ranks at number 80. That is 4 guys in the top 100 to start off that rotation. Beyond that, we see Luis Castillo and Ryan Pepio as the 5 and 6. And then a really interesting mix of depth options between Mike Burrows, Brandon Sproat, Tyler Mahle, and Clay Holmes. In the bullpen, I think it's a really nice collection of guys as well. Tanner Scott, who I want to believe in the bounce back. I really do. You've heard my spiel on lefties 100 times now, and he's such a good pitcher. Knowing what LA can do for, tweaking guys who have the stuff, and obviously we have seen more than just the stuff from him. I think he's actually going to be much, much better this year. Will Vest, who's getting a high leverage innings out in Detroit, and then Justin Sterner as well, who looks to be figuring kind of into that 7th, 8th inning role for the Athletics this season as well. So a really solid mix of relievers. Matt Svanson is another one to keep an eye on. It sounds like Ollie Marmol is kind of tagging him as one of the guys. The Cardinals haven't named a specific one guy to be closing, but Svanson is definitely one of the guys who is going to be getting some of those opportunities. So one of the kind of cool things there is, if he performs well, not only will Prius and the Tropapologists be getting points, but he could potentially be stepping into even more save opportunities. And then Brant Herter is the last guy in the bullpen, the sort of number one lefty for the Tigers. So really strong bullpen, but man, is that rotation sparkling. Skubal and Skeens, they start things off. There's not much more to say. Both projected over 800 points. They both feel like the chalk picks for Cy Young. And it kind of feels stupid to go against either one of them right now. I feel we are going to see the next level of Paul Skeens this year, which sounds insane because he had a sub-2 ERA last year. I think he is just going to continue getting better. The way that guy integrates new pitches, the stuff and velocity he has that pairs with the workload. 2 seasons in, both seasons he has had a sub-2 ERA. We're literally looking at a guy who has had, maybe the best start to a career a pitcher has ever had in the major leagues. It's early. Things could go, off of that track, certainly. But in the first 2 years, I guess I'm not the most historical person, but I do know a fair amount of baseball history. I can't think of another pitcher who's had this type of peak during their first 2 years. So Paul Skeens, everything he is, the armada of pitches and pitch types that he throws, along with that velocity and just pinpoint control, he is the perfect pitcher. And then Tarek Skubal, who is just a DAWG dog, man. He is so intimidating on the mound. The changeup, the fastball play so well off each other. And he just dominates. And from a fantasy perspective, both of these guys are essentially perfect products because they pitch a ton of innings and they strike out a ton of guys. And when they do get hit, they don't get hit very hard. So they limit a lot of, damage by the, earned run as well. Hunter Brown, knowing what he did for Houston last year, he's going to be stepping even further forward after getting that full workload. And Nick Lodolo, who I've given my opinion on the Reds, just saying how much I like their kind of pitching program and what they're doing. I think that he is in a position to do some really nice stuff in a very competitive environment in Cincinnati this year. And when you've got Luis Castillo and Ryan Pepio as your, 5 and 6 pitchers, there's only so much you can say to applaud this pitching staff. It is absolutely bombastic. It is just so good. Never mind the depth. Oh my God, you got Sprout, Clay Holmes, who, look, he wasn't everything, but that was a solid pitcher who, racked up a lot of innings and made starts for the Mets. I cannot say enough good things. About this pitching staff. I do really like Mike Burrows as well. I think that's an interesting name to keep an eye on. He is, I think, I want to say he came over from the Pirates to the Astros, which obviously there's kind of a fun pipeline of those guys. Charlie Morton, Garrett Cole. It's happened a few times where people have gone from the Pirates to the Astros and then really, really, really kind of exploded. And his profile just fits the kind of guy Houston really gets the most out of. So he is definitely an interesting one to kind of keep an eye on. One more name to keep an eye on is actually a guy on the IL right now. It's Ben Joyce, who of course is coming back from some TJ, but Look, obviously, Angel pitchers are always a little bit dicey just in terms of that organization, but this is a guy who throws 103. So, probably won't be throwing quite that when he does come back, but I think he's expected back relatively early, and certainly should slot right into the back end of the back end of that Anaheim bullpen. So he's another option just to add to that already impressive bullpen that he's got there. So we're coming down to prospects, and if you didn't know the name earlier, you know it now. It's Connor Griffin. That's right. One of the best teams in the league also has the consensus, absolute slam dunk number one prospect in the league, number one prospect in Dynasty. It's not close. I love Kevin McGonigal. It's not close. Connor Griffin is going to be a star. I would literally bet the house on it if I could afford to own a house. Elite top floor, top ceiling power speed combo. The hit tool has been better than expected when he was drafted. That was kind of his only knock when the Pirates took him. I want to say 8th or 9th overall in the draft. The only knock was the hit tool, and he hit 330 last year. He hit 330 with a 942 OPS, 21 home runs, and 65 stolen bases. He did all of that while racking up a 49% hard hit rate. 49%. Half of the balls were hard hit. To quote Elaine Bennis, I am speechless. I'm without speech. He is the next guy. He's only 19, so he's still kind of developing into that frame, and he should be up very, very soon. He is starting the year in AAA. You're wondering about a little bit of service time manipulation, but he should be up before we know it, and it's hard to imagine him not being successful at the major leagues very, very soon. He ranks, obviously, as the number one prospect on the list, and actually at number 22 on the top 1,000. IBW is clearly about as high on Connor Griffin as I am. The next name is actually one I love. This was a really crafty move by Prius to get Ryan Waldschmidt over to the Tropapologists this offseason. This is a player I really like for fantasy. He's kind of a Luke Keeschel type comp, but obviously in the outfield, left field, center field type. Last year in the minors, he hit 18 home runs and had 29 stolen bases. So obviously on the sort of lower end, but definitely got kind of a power speed, again, and definitely like a sort of gap to gap line drive type hitter. And what a lot of people have said is, the power will unlock even more if he taps into a little bit more lift and pull. So he's already got, I think, a great profile for putting the ball in play. He's got the speed to sort of make shit happen on the base paths when he does do that. And, if he gets up to the majors and starts working with kind of some major league hitting coaches, like if he can kind of adjust that swing to lift and pull a little bit more, we could be looking at a guy who, potentially could be hitting 25 home runs a year. And, I don't know about 30, but, we're talking about maybe a 25 type guy here with really good speed. Waldschmidt is a name I love. Again, I think he's one that's going to kind of make his way into not the top tier of everyone knows him, but like ball knowers Let me put it this way. In 2027 redraft leagues, everyone's going to be talking about how you should try and grab Ryan Waldschmidt in the late rounds. And then Kalen Culpepper is another guy. Actually, another Luke Keeschel comp. We can see Prius definitely kind of likes those type of guys. He is actually similar to Keeschel, another Minnesota Twin. He ranks at number 68 on the prospects list. Definitely a 2020 type guy, who I think is sort of the shortstop of the future for Minnesota. He performed really well across high and double A last year. 20 home runs, 25 stolen bases. The biggest knock, I think, to his profile right now is that he hits the ball in the ground way too much, close to 50% of the time. But similar to Waldschmidt, he has the raw power to become, a legit like line driver or home run type hitter with some swing adjustments. So I think that is the big thing kind of to keep an eye out on. What does his lift pull percentage look like early on in the minors, and of course when he makes it to the majors as well. But all three of those guys, I think, will likely contribute this year, and should probably actually contribute, pretty seriously, not just like, oh, this guy racked up some starts, but like I expect Connor Griffin to be a big piece of the Tropapologist success this year, and certainly the other two guys as well. So obviously you can hear how high I am on this team. Pardon me, I do have this as the second best team in the league, and I know Prius, rightfully, I would be doing the same thing. He's been fading himself a little bit in the chat, saying, guys, remember I finished 6th last year. Don't forget I finished 6th. This team is phenomenal. I think it has a high floor from a dynasty perspective. The lineup does, and the ceiling is absolutely astronomical with what those starting pitchers can do. I have them going 14-7, finishing in 2nd place, and yes, making the playoffs and making quite a deep run, in my opinion. Opening day is right around the corner. We will be back, actually later today with the final PSP for the season. So enjoy. I hope you enjoyed listening to this one, and I'll see you in about 12 hours for the next one. Have a good one.
Do you know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygag.
Lolly.